Now, where can we find these exemption lists? Well, for EU RoHS, obviously, you're going to look into EU RoHS Directive 2011-65 EU, Annexes 3 and 4. That's where those are listed. If you are going to review that, make sure you're either looking at the consolidated directive or there is a exemption rolling plan. It's an unofficial list, but it's a very informative list that shows which exemptions have been requested extensions, et cetera. And those that list I will link as well, so you can have that. That's put out by the European Commission. Again, it is unofficial, but very informative. When it comes to UK RoHS, you need to reference Schedule A2 Tables 1 and 2 in the UK RoHS regulations. But because there's no consolidated text, you're going to have to go find that in the actual amendment that applied it. And I will give you that link as well. Now, that's cool because that list actually has the mapping or a cross-reference of the UK exemptions to the EU exemptions. Now, these exemption tables versus annexes are structured completely different. The EU RoHS exemptions are structured based on product categories, with Annex 3 applying potentially to all product categories, and Annex 4 exemptions only able to apply to categories 8 and 9. And this is an artifact of the fact that categories 8 and 9 were rolled out at a later date than the other categories. So that's why these were divided up that way. So because the UK doesn't have an issue of different implementation dates for product categories, they chose to do it differently. And their exemption tables are broken up by exemptions, which apply to all normal applications in Table 1, and exemptions that apply to spare parts in Table 2. And the reason why they've done that is because the spare parts exemptions will have no expiry dates, whereas the exemptions applied to regular products will. So that's how they've chose to do this. So they've organized the exemption lists in completely different ways. So structurally, the lists are completely different, even though technically, from a requirements perspective, they are in alignment. Let me give you an example of these structural variances. So in this case, we have exemption 6A1. Exemption 6A1, it's an exemption for lead present in steel. Remember, we're limited to 0.1% lead in any homogeneous material, but in this case, it's telling us that if we have lead as an alloying element in steel for machining purposes, we can take that up to 0.35%. And if we have lead in batch hot dip galvanized steel components, we can take that up to 0.2%. So a little bit more leeway in how much lead we can have in these narrow applications. Well, when the UK transposed this into their exemption list, they applied two different exemptions. So what this means is that if I have a supplier tell me that, hey, my part claims exemption 6A1 for RoHS compliance, I know that that translates to a compliant position within the UK RoHS. But what I don't know is which exemption it translates to without finding out more information on this particular component, right? Is that a machining exemption or is that a galvanized steel exemption? Because I need to know whether this 6A1 translates to 13 or 14. I'm not concerned about compliance because I know either way it's compliant, but I might need more information to be able to make my UK RoHS declaration and declare which exemption I'm claiming. So while the requirements are in alignment, so I don't have to worry about being compliant in one place and not another, I do have to make sure I'm tracking the structural differences so I'm doing my reporting correctly.
Learn more by viewing the full-length video online at greensofttech.com/videos. Plus, learn about our environmental regulation solutions online at greensofttech.com.